All right, today we're going to dive into a problem that, let's be honest, probably affects every single one of us: our totally fractured attention spans. We're going to break down the science of why it feels so impossible to focus, and then, I promise, give you a real plan to get your concentration back. So let's get into it. Does this sound familiar? You sit down, you're ready to tackle something important. And what happens? A few minutes later, your mind's drifted off, you're scrolling on your phone, or you're just lost in a jungle of browser tabs. If that's you, you are definitely not alone. The data on this is, frankly, pretty staggering. So, a study out of the University of California found that the average worker gets just 12 minutes of focused time on a task before getting interrupted. 12 minutes. Just think about what that really does to your ability to get anything meaningful done during the day. Okay, now, you might want to brace yourself for this next one. Other research shows the average person working on a computer switches between different apps and websites 1,200 times a day. No, that is not a typo. We're basically giving ourselves a little dose of mental whiplash over and over all day long. And here's the real gut punch. Remember that interruption we just talked about? Well, it takes, on average, over 23 minutes to fully get your concentration back after just one of those little distractions. Now, you start to do the math on that, and you realize we might be spending entire days without ever reaching a state of true deep focus. So, what is the actual cost of all this jumping around? This brings us to a really crucial idea that pretty much blows up the whole myth of multitasking. Let's take a look at the serious penalty our brains are paying for this constant shifting. Okay, so there's a fancy scientific name for this. It's called the cognitive switching penalty. But here's what it actually means. Every single time you switch tasks, your brain has to shut down one program and load up a completely new one. And that's not free. It costs you mental energy, it makes you more likely to make mistakes, and it just tanks your overall performance. And when you see that cost visualized, wow. Some studies suggest that up to 40% of our productive time isn't just lost, it's completely vaporized by the act of just switching between things. Almost half our time is just spent trying to get back to where we were. And this really shows you the scale of the problem. It's not just about you feeling a little frazzled. We're talking about a $450 billion hit to the global economy every year. And on a personal level, that constant task switching can temporarily drop your functional IQ by as much as 10 points. It literally makes you less sharp. Okay, so if it's so obviously bad for us, why can't we stop doing it? Well, to get that, we need to look at the brain chemistry behind why it is so unbelievably hard to just look away from our screens. You see, our devices are basically engineered to create this exact loop. It all boils down to a chemical in your brain called dopamine. You get a trigger, like a buzz in your pocket, and that prompts an action. But here's the magic ingredient, the variable reward. It's just like a slot machine. You never know if you're going to get a juicy like, an important email, or nothing. And that uncertainty is what makes it so addictive. It creates a compulsion to just keep pulling the lever. And this quote from Stanford's Dr. Anna Lemke, it really puts a fine point on it. That quick glance at your phone, it's not quick at all. It casts a 10-minute shadow over your ability to think clearly. The big takeaway here is that even the tiniest distractions have a surprisingly long and damaging tail. Okay, I know that was a lot of bad news, but there is a powerful antidote to this whole culture of distraction. So now we're going to pivot from the problem to the solution, a concept known as deep work. This term was coined by Professor Cal Newport, and deep work is the absolute opposite of the shallow, scattered, notification-driven work we've been talking about. It's all about getting into a state of intense, laser-focused concentration where you can produce your absolute best, most creative, and most valuable work. So how do you actually do it? Well, the trick is to work with your brain's natural cycles, not against them. It turns out our brains operate in these rhythms of peak alertness, and they last for about 90 minutes. So if you structure your focus sessions around that 90-minute block, that's the sweet spot for peak concentration. But here's something that might actually be a relief. You have to be realistic. This kind of intense focus is exhausting. Studies of top performers, people like professional musicians, show that even they can only really sustain about 4 hours of true deep work in a day, and usually that's split into 2 sessions. The goal isn't to be a robot for 8 hours straight. It's to fiercely protect a few hours for the work that truly moves the needle. This all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we put it into practice in the real world? Well, this final section is all about action. We're going to walk through a concrete step-by-step plan you can start using today. First things first, you have to tame the notification beast. I mean, disable everything that isn't absolutely essential. Stop letting your email run your life by checking it in specific, planned blocks of time. And that last point, it's critical. Research shows that just having your phone visible, even if it's off, reduces your available brain power. So get it out of sight, put it in another room. All right, now for a totally counterintuitive idea. In our constant quest to avoid being bored for even a single second, we might be robbing ourselves of one of our most powerful tools for creativity. What if I told you boredom was actually a good thing? This is pretty wild. Check this out. In one study, they had one group do a really boring task, literally just sorting beans. Afterwards, that group came up with way more and better creative ideas compared to a group that did an interesting task. You see, when we're bored, our brain's default mode network kicks into gear. That's when we daydream, make new connections, and solve tough problems. So here it is, your roadmap. For the first 2 days, just pay attention. See how bad the problem really is for you. Then on day 3, you implement that notification lockdown we talked about. By day 4, you schedule your very first protected 60-minute deep work session. And from there, you can build out a full schedule and protect those golden morning hours. It's a clear, manageable way to start. So we'll end on this question. The ability to focus deeply, it really is a superpower in our crazy, distracted world. This isn't about throwing away technology. It's about learning to control it so that it doesn't control you. The most important thing to remember is that you can reclaim your focus. It just takes practice. So what amazing things could you create or solve or learn if you did?